Hello viewers, Super GT Forza Motorsport 7 action. And by motorsport we mean Rammer Sport, of course. Let's go then. VIR, one of the 2 billion configurations of this track. I don't know which one it is. Now, turn 1, obviously, this is where all the carnage begins. And, well, welcome back to Forza. There we go, just get smashed off. And, well, yeah, that's what they look like. That's what a rammer looks like right there. So clearly now, down to 17th position, we're going to have to do a lot of work. Well, when I say a lot of work, what I mean is it's just meandering in and out of people who are smashing the hell out of each other, which is very likely to happen around this section, VIR first sector. And we can see again plenty of smoke screens getting laid down. Smoke grenades, obviously the attachment of choice today. So we're going to eventually get past this BMW after having to pretty much go down into first gear at 2 miles an hour. And past the Aston Martin. That's not actually the one that rammed me. It was actually a different one. Maybe they're working together and actually have rammer liveries. I don't know how it works these days. So Lamborghini ahead of us, having a tricky time through the S's as this BMW recovers from the grass. Got a couple of other guys here, and well, and this guy's actually called Grass Bandit quite appropriately as he recovers from the grass. And you can see there, I was 17th about a minute ago, and I'm already 7th. And it wasn't really just by skill at all. It was just meandering in and out of everyone who's crashed. So trying to reel in the guy ahead. Now there's a good braking zone for this hairpin, very tight hairpin as we go into the infield, which is pretty much the end of the runoff area on the left hand side as you go in. Now here's the guy who rammed me. Now I'm not going to ram him back, I'm just going to try to pressure him into a mistake by looking up the inside, over the crest. Very easy to go wide here, and he does. He goes wide once, then back across the track, all the way to the other side. Amazing rejoin, give it 10 out of 10. And we're easily back past him. So clearly some people not in control of their cars. Now you can see here a back marker, the hollowed out light or symbol on the map, and well, there he is. Have a look. He's tried to ram me off.
This is a medical disorder.
And he has succeeded in ramming second place off. There he goes into the barrier. So I gained a position there through no fault of the other guys. It's not his fault at all. And again, looking at the map, you can see a back marker and the leader both going very slow. You just wonder what's happened there. There he was, as we just drove past him, as he was in the cut-off. And we caught up very quickly to the leader. He was a good couple of thousand feet ahead. And he is probably Grass Bandit's brother, because he's just going to drive off the track as well in his Ferrari. So we go up into the lead, almost bin ourselves and turn ourselves into a Grass Bandit, just about keep it on though. And well, that was pretty much the end of that race. Yeah, getting binned off at the beginning and just recovering because everyone else was crashing or getting smashed off by a back marker. Great stuff, great stuff indeed. And then the next track, well, just another of the 2 billion configurations of VIR. This problem still isn't fixed. Come on, let's get it fixed. Okay, next track. We quit that lobby, went for another one. Don't really fancy 2 25-minute races in a row at the same circuit or the same place. So Hockenheim it is in the McLaren. Now check this out. Moses, our boy Moses, is going to make an appearance here as Aston Martin strikes the wall. And everyone just goes sideways, and then this Audi comes back across the track. Which way do we go? Well, the racing gods have clearly worked in my favour today as I go past. There he is. What a lad. What an absolute lad. Cheers, mate. So we move on. So I've chosen the McLaren because I feel as though it's definitely an underrepresented car in this hopper, in this division. But there probably is a good reason for that. It might just be shit. You just never know. But, well, you do know. People tend to stick to good cars. And they don't use the crap ones, so that's probably why it's not being used very much. You can see the massive speed differential on the main straight, also the long curved straight. Tidy rejoin there by the Maserati, going across 70% of the circuit, just to make sure that no one gets past him. But I'm going to look through up the inside The brakes do seem very good though, I will give the McLaren that. So easily up the inside as we go in, almost making contact. That could have definitely ended very, very badly. Up into 9th position. So we're going to try to make the most or the best of the brakes. And you can see here nicely on the brakes, releasing them halfway through actually to really go fully alongside. We get the job done up into 7th past the BMW. So we've got a fast kink to the right, which sets us up into the next left-hander, which also has a fairly big braking zone. And the BMW behind, going to go for lunge of the century. Well, I mean, he got past, but it wasn't really the best move. Into the next corner, I think he realises that, and he slows right down. So let's go back past, so fair enough. No worries indeed, if that's going to be the case there. So up behind the Corvette now, again into the hairpin. And again on the brakes, the McLaren really going well. It's just very underpowered. I think you do need power overall. You can't really do much with just good brakes alone. Is he going to punt me into this corner? No, not quite. So we got away with it that time around. So this time I'm going to see myself getting overtaken. This time by the Super GT car, the Nissan Nismo GTR. So he goes through up the inside. Very clean move. I left him in the space. Could have. I saw him coming, so there wasn't really much. Not much need to really force him very narrow. Otherwise, I'm just losing time myself. And he did catch up very quickly in that car. I'm going to try to keep up with him the best we can. You can see here just getting a bit of rear end action as we come out of that corner. And the drive is far superior in that Nismo. In the end, a 7th place. Disappointing, really. So we go to Suzuka. We've done this track enough, I think, but we're going to do a couple more laps, 9 more laps. So past that guy, he got very slow off the line. Immediately from 4th into 2nd in the Aston Martin GT3. Now it has a wing the size of an aeroplane wing, but weirdly enough, the downforce isn't actually brilliant on the rear end on this guy. It does actually like to slide around quite a lot. It's quite a tricky car to use. I thought in this session at least, I'll try not to use the absolute best cars. I'll just try a couple of different cars than I'd normally use. Normally using the Porsche as I did in the first race, but going for the McLaren and the Aston in these last 2 races. So Porsche out in the lead from pole position. Going to do our best to try to keep up with him. Although throughout the first half of this lap, he does seem to be pretty much on it, so it's going to be very tricky. All you can do though is really just keep up the pressure, just like this BMW is doing to me, into the hairpin, braking at the end of the curve, it's on the right hand side, down into 2nd gear. You could go down to 1st, but you've got too much sort of wheel spin in that gear. And as I said, it's a very easy car to kind of spin on, or it's a very easy car to get wheel spin on. So keeping a slightly higher gear than normal is advisable to minimise or to maximise traction, to minimise wheel spin, especially out of that hairpin, the slowest corner on the circuit. So then rounding out Spoon Curve, you see how the track, not layout, but the track, the way it's made is definitely, seems a bit different on this game than it does on Gran Turismo Sport. Obviously I've never been to Suzuka, so I can't really comment on which one is more realistic. But obviously you just have to kind of adapt to each one. They're not exactly the same, or they don't feel exactly the same. Into the final, I always mix up hairpin and chicane. Into the final chicane, a little bit deep into the first apex, but not too bad. And you see the Porsche in the lead just beginning to edge away, slightly, not a huge amount, but it's still, I mean, if he's going to be a second lap quicker, then it's going to be very hard for me to win unless he makes a very big mistake. Or gets punted by a back marker, which is probably much more likely. So you're going to try to preserve our 2nd place here to the end, which may be a more realistic aim for this one. Through the S's, I don't think this is going to be this car's strong suit. This track, I really do divide it up into kind of 2 sectors. So obviously you actually have about 3 or 4 sectors in reality, but I kind of like to say that going into the first corner up until the exit of the hairpin, that's kind of sector 1, which is the more twisty kind of section. And then coming out of the hairpin toward, and then from there until the first corner, you've got a lot more straight lines. So kind of got to weather the storm in the first sector if your car's not very good at handling, and just wait until you get to the sector coming up, my imaginary second sector, which is beginning now, where there are quite a lot more straights or open sections where you really get the power down. So obviously this isn't straight, but it is full speed, or it is full power. On the wind round to Spoon, breaking on the end of the shadow, and going down a couple of gears. The Astro doesn't quite suck you off as it does in the GT Sport, so it's not quite that satisfaction that you get in Gran Turismo. It doesn't really translate into Forza. So I guess when the Turn 10 team did their scouting at Suzuka, they didn't quite have the same pleasure that the Sony and Polyphony Digital staff would have experienced when they were mapping the circuit. But into the final chicane, again a tiny bit deep, just still trying to improve our braking zone, or trying to get our brake marker for that chicane. So this is something you've got to do in an endurance race, trying to work out and trying to improve what you're doing as you go around. I mean, you've got many laps to do it. Begin just slightly to edge away from that BMW, but at the beginning of lap 5, so we've skipped 2 laps. This is pretty much my first kind of major mistake, where it doesn't actually really cost me too much time. If anything, it didn't really cost me any time at all, because it kind of square off the corner and just get on the power a little bit earlier. But it wasn't intentional. There was a big chance that that guy behind could have just nipped up the inside. So through the S's, it's pretty much a matter of, if there's someone behind you, it's a matter of just keeping it on the racing line and just not really leaving us a car width on the inside. So just know whether they can kind of just nip their nose up the inside, and then you kind of have to let them in then. Just kind of just make sure that situation doesn't happen. Into Degner 2, so pretty much on the edge with Degner 1. Degner 2 again on the edge, but just about keeping it under control. We've got Slash Crasher behind us in the Nismo. He drove past us quite easily in the previous race at Hockenheim, so that Nismo definitely has got it working for him. But we have, how many laps? 4.5 laps left to try to keep him at bay and preserve our second place. Let's see if we can do that. Into Spoon Curve, again braking on the end of the shadow, tends to roll into that corner very nicely, and just very, very patient for that second apex, which can actually be very, very misleading. It's actually very tempting to go in way too hot into that second apex, and you lose a lot of time, as there is a very long straight here. Up into 130R, the car not quite as planted through 130R as I would have liked, so getting on the brakes, just trying to dip 2 wheels on the grass if you can. It's actually gone through there quite nicely, and braking this time pretty much exactly where we need to. Pretty tricky on traction actually, as I've said many times. The car not quite wanting to accelerate away from that corner as quick as the other cars, so maybe this car would be better with TCS on, but I typically prefer to drive with it off if I can. So then into turn 1, which in many ways is kind of just a braking zone for turn 2. It's almost like it's not a corner in itself. So Slash Crasher almost getting a run on me here, but I'm just about going to preserve the inside line and just about be able to tuck in ahead still. So he may be getting frustrated, but I mean, this is racing. This is kind of what happens. You get stuck behind a slightly slower car, you've got to find a way past. Legitimately, a bit of bumping. My car quite not as capable of going through that section as quick as him. I'm just about able to keep him at bay through Dunlop into Degner 1. Not really an overtaking opportunity. Degner 2 kind of is, but I mean, you've got to be very brave and very committed to get past in Degner 2. Coming up to some better braking opportunities, the hairpin, but I'm kind of going to take a kind of middle line, which is actually fairly normal for that braking zone. Bit of contact on the exit, but nothing too bad. Now I've kind of set them off in a civil war behind, so the Porsche of FTR Legends is quickly approaching this little battle for second, and I mean, the best I can hope really is that those two begin to fight each other for third instead, but it looks like they are swapping places every 2 seconds, judging by the timer thing on the left hand side of the screen. And actually Legends now through into third, so I've got a different threat to deal with. The Porsche, definitely a quick car, so My focus hasn't really changed at all. Kind of just lap the best I can, stay on the racing line and go defensive if I really have to. So you can see here, definitely gone slightly defensive, sort of a middle line. So I think right about now is the kind of time. I'm going to go into the pit lane because I felt as though I wanted to cover off the guys who had already pitted. And I felt that if I was blocking this guy for too long, I'm going to lose too much time. And I can just only hope that those two start battling for a while and that neither of them will jump me in the next lap or two. So just rejoining in, of course, 6th place, just ahead of a guy who was part of the battle but kind of bailed out early, trying to get an undercut, so it hasn't quite worked out for him. We're going to see how it develops with Slash Crasher in the Nismo, and actually he's lost out. Well, he hasn't, or should I say he hasn't gained, he's failed to gain. So he was right behind me, although, well, Legends was right behind me, then he was right behind Legends in the Porsche. So he hasn't quite been able to get past. So with under 2 laps to go, it's going to be an interesting one here because I'm in 5th, a couple of cars left to pit, and they have to pit at the end of this lap if they haven't done so already. It's FTR Legends in the lead. We've got Ramos in 1st place. Not sure if it's Sergio. I reckon it is. I reckon Sergio just playing a bit of Forza on the run up to the World Cup, you know, just to unwind, and he's actually pretty quick. Just nowhere near being able to keep up with him. So now we have some pressure. Orange distance marker. I forget what it's called. A hit marker. Oh, it's going to be a hit marker. There it is. Enormous contact from behind. But again, just keeping that line, keeping cool. We know our braking points. Just try and hit them, and it's up to the guy behind to try to make that clean pass. So at the moment, just trying to keep my cool. Not really many mistakes being made, and these are kind of good testing races. It's not always about, you know, flying through the pack and overtaking everyone and finish first by 10 miles. Sometimes you get races like this where you're not quite as fast. You've got yourself into a good position early on, but then you might need to kind of preserve your position towards the end. And it's just a kind of different kind of race. And I do like to practice it because you just never know. And to me, it's proper racing. You know, as long as everyone's kind of abiding by the rules and I'm not swerving all over the place, I'm not doing a Max Verstappen on the brakes, then we're all good. So as long as I can rebuff that attack going into the chicane, then I should be okay because I've got the straight line speed. So I'm just going to slightly pull away. So we're going to see where Legends is. Actually, he's just pulled out ahead. You can see him. He's a good, actually, 2 seconds ahead. So he's actually gained quite a lot. So that 2 laps difference in our pit stops has obviously kind of unleashed him to go about a second a lap quicker and then maintain that gap. You can see there. So now, unless he makes a mistake, it's going to be a battle for 3rd. So I've got 2 cars all over me with 3/4 of a lap remaining. So this is going to be the hardest part, I think, the first half of the lap. The imaginary first sector up until the hairpin, and then I might be a lot safer, although if they can keep with me through Spoon and 130R, then they still have a chance into that final chicane on the lap. So Suzuka's always a great circuit, very unique layout with the crossovers. You can see they're going under the bridge, and of course many overtaking opportunities, a great flowing first sector, the slightly more open final half of the lap, but with overtaking opportunities at the beginning and at the end and throughout. So not the best exit through or from the hairpin, a bit of oversteer, kicking some dust into the air, but it looks like it's going to be a swap of positions between Slash Crasher and the guy immediately behind into Spoon Curve. That might help me as they kind of lose a bit of time jostling with each other through this turn. You can see the proximity arrow very close. As we come out onto the back straight, Slash Crasher poking into the bottom of the screen to say hello. He is very close. I've got to try to maximise this straight to bring the gap up towards 100 feet, but not quite. Into 130R, can I get enough of a gap to make sure he's actually quite close? I think he just backed off there as he went over the curb. So I can take a mostly racing line, or semi-defensive. And coming out of the exit, just dipping 2 wheels onto the curb, it spins me round. I'm going to get contact from behind. I don't think he quite expected that, and he might have slipped alongside me had he not been right behind me at that exact moment. But I'm going to cross the line to finish third. So after an exhilarating and very tiring race actually, so quite mentally fatiguing, come through to finish third, started fourth on the grid, so always good to go up. And you see the lap times, I wasn't quite on it compared to the other guys, but it was still a good race and fought with respect from everyone involved. So there we go guys, I do hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts as always. I hope to see you in the next one. Obviously subscribe if you're new to the channel, and do hit the like button if you enjoyed. I shall see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Listen.